Are you looking at purchasing a home in the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho region? Specifically a move-up home where you have a home sale contingency? In this video, I will go over the pros and cons of a home sale contingency. First off, let's look at what a contingent offer means. It is an offer to buy a home with specific conditions that have to be met before the sale can be finalized. Some common contingencies can be the buyer's home sale contingency, the financing or satisfaction of inspections. Now, this can be a combination of all those, it can be a combination of none, or there could be other ones. Those are just some of the common ones. Now, let's talk about the benefits. For sellers, accepting an offer with a home sale contingency can actually give you more potential buyers that will look at your home if that's something that you are willing to look at. Now, for sellers, buyers are probably going to be willing to pay a little bit more if a seller is flexible on a home sale contingency. For buyers, contingent offers provide security. So for buyers, it offers security in the fact that you are writing an offer contingent upon you selling your property, so you're not going to be stuck with two mortgages. Also, if the home inspection doesn't come back to your satisfaction, you can pull out of the offer depending on how it's written, and you're not necessarily out anything except for your inspection. Now again, that is an asterisk depending on how it's written, but there are just some things that are already in place as you have the home secured with your offer while you're willing and able to look at these things. For a buyer, you have already negotiated the price and an offer that you and the seller are willing to work with, so you don't have to worry so much about someone else coming in while you have your home for sale. Now, there could be some caveats if you agree to bump clauses, but that's another conversation. Now, there are benefits, but there's also cons to writing a contingent offer. Let's look at some of those. So there are some drawbacks for the sellers on accepting a contingency sale. Sellers may find contingency sales are often risky as the sale depends on factors out of their control. This uncertainty can lead to a longer sales process and potentially the deal falling through. On the flip side, there could be some drawbacks for sellers with a contingency offer, for the fact that you don't get to negotiate what your buyer can list their house for or the terms that they can agree. So there's things that are out of your control that could affect you in the long run. Now, I recently had a deal with a client of mine that was selling their property. We accepted a home sale contingency. The listing agent told us it was going to be one price, except for when they went and listed it, they listed it at a higher price. Unfortunately, because we had already accepted their offer, we were stuck waiting for them to be able to sell theirs. Now, there's some things you can do in that situation. You can add some bump clauses, but those need to be done in the beginning. They can't be done in the middle of the contract. So it can put the risk of a longer escrow on the seller at that time. For buyers, one of the cons is less competitive. So when it's a hot market and homes are flying off, sellers are less likely to accept home sale contingency offers than if it's a little bit slower of a market. In a slower market, sellers are more willing to look at those. It just kind of depends on what market we are currently in and whether or not a seller is going to be willing to accept that contingency. And because it depends on the seller accepting that contingency, some sellers will, which will be great, but maybe some won't. Maybe some have had bad experiences or just want an offer that they can control versus one that they can't. In a hot market, sellers may not be willing to accept contingency sale offers. So you might not be able to get your dream home if a home sale contingency is not something that the seller is willing to accept. Pro for sellers. In slower or uncertain markets, contingency offers can be more common and accepted, allowing sellers to keep their property in demand. For both buyers and sellers, it's building a relationship. Engaging in a contingent deal often requires more interaction and negotiating, potentially leading to stronger relationships between the buyer and seller, which can facilitate a smoother transaction. A pro for buyers is that they have more time to get their finances in place and get ready to move without having to relocate right away. Also, you're not moving from one house to a rental to a storage unit. You're just moving from one house into your new house. Pro for sellers is the flexibility as you transition from one house to another. For sellers planning to move from a new house themselves, accepting a contingency offer can provide a more flexible timeline aligning with their sale and their purchase process. Now let's look at some of the cons, because there are cons, not just all pros, in the home sale contingency offers. So for both a buyer and a seller, home sale contingency offers can be rather complex. So there needs to be more negotiating and coming to terms with each other's reasonings of what each other wants and needs in it. So it can be a lot more negotiating and time and timelines. A con for the seller can be the emotional stress. You are waiting for the buyer's home to sell, which you have no control of. And while you're sitting there waiting, it can cause extra stress on you. Another con for the sellers can be the potential to miss out on other offers. So you have this great offer from the first buyer and you accept it. If you don't have a bump clause or anything else in place, you are stuck with that offer until the buyer cannot perform. So you could potentially lose out on other offers, or this could also be the best offer you get. You just never know. So that's why you need to weigh all your options when looking at offers. Con for the buyer is there could be additional costs. Buyers could face additional costs such as bridge loans or temporary housing if the timing doesn't work out from when you sell your home to when you're able to move into your new home. Should you negotiate some rent backs or something for the seller? Also, with rates changing as sporadically as there are, you could put an offer in thinking that you have one rate, and by the time that your offer gets accepted, it may be at a different rate. Cons for both a buyer and a seller is market shifts. If the market shifts unfavorably while the contingency is in place, it could negatively impact either the buyer or the seller, such as a decrease in the home's value or an increase in interest rates. If you're considering a home sale contingency, here are some tips. For sellers, assess the buyer's situation thoroughly. Are their finances in place? How much do they intend on listing their home for? Are they going to be aggressive when they list it? Or are they going to try to shoot for the moon and list it very high? Those are all things that you want to ask your agent to ask their agent so that you know what you're getting into before you sign the paperwork. For a buyer, make your offer as appealing as it can. Now, maybe that's going to be bidding a little bit higher or having more flexible move-in dates, but you are asking the seller to take a risk on you when you don't even know if your home has sold yet. So there you have it, the pros and cons of offering a home sale contingency. Now, every situation is going to be unique and different. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out so we can go over your unique situation and helping you get into your dream home. If you're looking to purchase in the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho region, I would love to help you. My name is Amanda Kusbert and I'm with the Phoenix Agency.